Hi, ADHD friends. Ready to become gutsy cooks? Let's start now. Today we're going to make Irish soda bread. This is what's called a quick bread because it does not take any yeast to rise. It rises with baking soda and buttermilk. You can add dried fruit and make a sweet loaf and sugar, or you can have a more savory loaf and add rosemary or thyme. This loaf can be made with or without butter. It's tasty either way. And I heard one time an older woman lament, "We don't even know how to make ourselves a loaf of bread anymore." And she was talking about making Irish soda bread. And that stuck with me. You know, people used to make their own bread every week. So let's learn how. Let's get gutsy. Gather your equipment, your ingredients, and yourself. Here are the equipment ingredients to make Irish soda bread. This is a good time to pause the slide to gather your equipment and ingredients, or you can go to the next timestamp if you have the printed recipe from gutsyycooks.com. I am going to read the ingredients for our visually impaired friends. If you want to listen, sometimes I do give some tips and tricks along the way. The equipment you'll need is a large shallow mixing bowl. If you don't have a shallow mixing bowl, a regular mixing bowl will do. Measuring cups, measuring spoons, a liquid measuring cup, a box grater, a wooden mixing spoon or nonstick spatula, an iron skillet or a parchment-lined round cake pan, a bench scraper or a sharp knife, and a wire rack. The ingredients are 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. The butter is optional. The bread will work without it, but it will have a different flavor, and 1 3/4 cups of buttermilk. Get ready. Preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're going to use butter, shred the cold butter with the box grater. Then measure the flour into the large shallow bowl. And finally, measure the salt and the baking soda into their own little bowls. Combine. Add the salt and the baking soda and mix with a fork, counting to 30. That will make sure everything is really well mixed. Then if you choose to add butter, you're going to add the butter and pinch it together with your fingers. If you have a texture issue and this is not comfortable for you, you can mix it around and try and smush it with the fork or the mixing spoon. But really, the best technique is the one I'm showing here. Then you're going to add the buttermilk and mix, counting to 30 again. You can also mix with your hands, that or a mixing spoon. Don't overmix it. Think about just bringing the ingredients together. So I want you to watch here. We just kind of bring the ingredients to the center, and you want to make sure that everything is well mixed. But this is already a crusty loaf, and if you overmix this, the bread will end up tough. At that point, when it's well mixed, you can't see flour anywhere, then you're going to add your dried fruit if this is a sweet loaf or your savory fillings. This will be the time. And you can see I'm a big fan of just getting right in there with the fingers. And that's all you need to do. Not much. The trick is getting it off your fingers, really. You just kind of got to milk them like a cow. It's forming into a nice loaf. And that's about all we're going to do to it before we put it in the pan. So we're going to scoop it up. We're going to put it in the pan or our parchment-lined baking tin. And then I want you to cut into the dough across and then in the other direction, making quarters. Cut down to almost the bottom of the dough. Heat. Bake in the oven for 30 minutes. Set a timer or 2 timers. Finish and serve. Cool the bread in the pan for 10 minutes. After that, you can transfer the bread to a wire rack to finish cooling or to a cutting board to serve warm. And you'll see it just comes right out. Because it's a crusty loaf, those cuts are important because it releases steam and it helps the inside of the bread to cook. Without that, the steam would stay in there and it would just kind of be mush instead of bread. This can be made into cheese bread by adding half a cup of shredded cheddar, or you can add 3 tablespoons of sugar and a half a cup of raisins or other dried fruit for a sweet loaf, like we talked about. I want you to only use a metal pan, not glass. And just be aware that if you cut the bread before it cools, it may be more crumbly. So just keep that in mind. So there's Irish soda bread. You can now make your own bread, savory or sweet. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you for getting gutsy. If you liked this recipe, please subscribe. Thank you for your time and attention. Now go get gutsy.